Well, welcome to the One Life Church devotional series. We cover the entire Bible in 20 months. Well, today's chapters are Ezekiel 28 and 29. Now, Ezekiel 28 is fascinating because Ezekiel is prophesying to the earthly ruler of Tyre. We heard about that yesterday, but now he's speaking to the ruler. And then it's almost as if he goes behind the scenes to the spiritual demonic forces behind that king. And he speaks to that as well. So he says to the earthly ruler of Tyre, this is what the sovereign Lord says. In the pride of your heart, you say, I am a God. Verse 8 says, because you think you are wise as a God, I'm going to bring foreigners against you. And then he says, you're going to die a violent death. You can't claim deity. No, you can't claim deity. And then he turns, I think, most theologians think this, to the demonic forces behind this king that make him think that he's supernatural. To the king of Tyre, and say to him, this is what the sovereign Lord says. You were a seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were anointed as a guardian cherub. Most theologians think this is the devil himself that he's referring to. Perfect as a guardian cherub. You were blameless in your ways. Now the king of Tyre was hardly blameless before he was spoken to. You were blameless in your ways, and the day you were created until wickedness was found in you. Your heart became proud, and on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor, I threw you to the earth. This is a description of what happened to the devil. And so if it's not the devil behind the king of Tyre, it's basically saying you've gone the same way as the devil himself. And so then he turns his attention. He's basically saying Tyre, the ruler of Tyre, is going to be disciplined. He's going to be judged because he's come under the influence of demonic forces which have made him think that he is equal to God, and God's going to judge that. Then he turns to Sidon, and he prophesies against her and says, no longer will the people of Israel have a nuisance enemy on their border. He's going to judge them for what they've done to Israel. And then chapter 29 says, the Son of Man, set your face against the Pharaoh of Egypt. And he compares the Pharaoh of Egypt to this river monster, like a giant crocodile. And he says, I'm going to put a hook in your mouth and I'm going to drag you out of your pomp and ceremony. Verse 9 of 29 says, because you said, the Nile is mine and I made it. Therefore I am against you and against your streams, and I will make Egypt a wasteland. And he says, never again will Egypt rule the world or rule over the nations. Now chapter 29 ends in a fascinating way. He turns to Nebuchadnezzar and he says, listen, because Nebuchadnezzar has been an instrument in my hand, he's fought a very hard battle for me against Tyre. In fact, he says, their heads have grown bald, pretty much like mine, and their shoulders have grown weary under the battle. I'm going to reward them. I'm going to reward them with the spoils of Tyre. And then the final verse says this, God's going to raise up a horn for Israel. In other words, give Israel strength. He's judging Tyre, he's judging Sidon, he's judging Egypt, and there's this hint, and we know what's coming, don't we? That Cyrus is going to say, time to go home, time to go and rebuild your nation. But in the end of this chapter, there's a hint that God's going to do that. So I trust as you're reading these chapters, you're seeing the immediate prophecy and then the supernatural, the heavenly realities behind them, like the devil on one side, the coming of Jesus on the other. God bless you.